Nice to see you. Hello, Zurich. Hello, everyone. Here I am with Jonas from Bitcoin Swiss to talk about tokenomics and token legal classification. Let's go. But first of all, a little disclaimer. I have to do this. So to make it very clear, both Jonas and I just express our own opinions. They're not binding to our employer. They're not financial advice, legal advice, or even life advice. Come on. And, you know, if you don't like anything, you can find me outside or fight me on X. So let's start. Question for all of you. Easy question, not easy answer, but we like these questions. What is Ether? Like, you wake up, you think about it, but what is it? One ETH equal one ETH, obvious, but what is Ether? Like, some people here believe Ether is money, I'm sure. Some people are in the ultrasound money crew as well. It can be digital oil, productive asset, meme coin, I don't know. What is Ether? That's the question, not such an obvious answer. And imagine asking yourself this for all the tokens in our universe. Like, you go, you check the list, you have thousands, tens of thousands of tokens. They do different things, have different purposes, different functionalities. What do you do? I mean, not obvious. So for this diversity, you have both challenges and opportunities. And we really like this. I mean, we like working in this space because there are so many opportunities. It's very exciting. It's constantly evolving ecosystem, super nice. But there are also challenges. This is true both for users, investors, builders, and regulators. Let's not forget regulators, very important. So what do we do? For investors and users, what I want to say is that obviously it's not like you enter, you are new to the system, and you know what to do. It's overwhelming. So many tokens, they do different things. What do I do? How do you navigate the space? Not obvious. For regulators, I mean, let's be honest. You have all these kind of shiny objects that do different things, and every day there is something new. How do you fit these tokens in the existing laws or even create new laws when the space is constantly changing every day? Not obvious. That's all I'm saying. And for builders, also, you know, sometimes it's not as obvious. How do you create your protocol and add new features when you don't know how the law and different jurisdictions will look at it? Not easy. That's all I'm saying. So we need to navigate the space better. We need a more structured approach. And I like, and because Swiss likes, I can say, also, taxonomies. Taxonomies are a very important tool. Instead of doing this work for every single token, you divide the universe in sectors and subsectors, and then you can classify tokens and have a more structured approach. Because Swiss, we like taxonomies so much that we actually made one. This is the Bitcoin Swiss global crypto taxonomy that divides all the tokens in the right sectors and subsectors according to the functionality of the related protocol. And this, of course, is very useful for users that need to navigate the space. But it doesn't tell you everything, also for regulators and builders. You need another kind of classification that can complement this one. And here we go to the next section of the talk, and I'm very happy to give the mic to my colleague Jonas, as it's time to lawyer up.
Thank you very much. Just quickly the buzzer. Thanks. All right, let us start with a brief overview of a few select jurisdictions. On the left-hand side, we see the United States, and there the discussion revolves around what is an investment contract, is a sale of a token an investment scheme, is therefore a token a security? Well, and this is all based on a 1946 US Supreme Court case that discussed orange groves. So are tokens securities? Are they oranges? Well, that's a discussion in the United States. And this leads to regulation by enforcement. And this is very well illustrated by cases such as the SEC versus Coinbase, versus Kraken, versus Bittrex, versus Binance. And we can also switch the agency, the CFTC versus the DAO, or the settlement between 0x and Matcha. Then in the center we have Switzerland. In Switzerland, the Swiss Financial Supervisory Authority published the ICO guidelines in 2018. Later in 2019, they were supplemented by the stablecoin guidelines. And in 2021, the Federal Council brought the DLT Act, which amended 10 existing laws. So in Switzerland, we chose the technology-neutral approach. We amended existing laws to have them fit for crypto assets. On the right-hand side, we have the approach chosen by Liechtenstein, our neighboring country, as well as the EU. In Liechtenstein, we have the TVTG and the TVTV, which are the law and ordinance that cover crypto asset regulation. It, as far as I know, was also the inspiration for MiCAR, which is the EU framework for crypto asset regulation. So you have a dedicated rule of set of law, which gives you a lot of clarity. For example, staking is clear in Liechtenstein, and as opposed to Switzerland, where still some open questions are, at least on the topic of staking. But let's discuss Switzerland a bit more. I've mentioned the ICO guidelines, and the ICO guidelines basically classify tokens within 3 categories. We have payment tokens, utility tokens, and asset tokens. And this fairly early on actually allowed people to participate, receive tokens, become a part of an ecosystem, and it was fairly on pioneering from the Swiss regulator, or FINMA in that sense. So what is a payment token? A payment token is used as a means of payment, therefore it needs the characteristics of money, and the core functions of money are medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value. Moving on to utility tokens. Utility tokens are intended to be used in exchange for a service or a product on the blockchain, and the focus is really on the consumptive nature of that token. So you give it and you receive some sort of product or service in a closed ecosystem. Then moving on to asset tokens. Asset tokens, they represent a debt or equity claim against the issuer. They are like equities, bonds, derivatives. They promise you possibly a future capital flow. And from that, we understand that a traditional financial instrument, if it would be tokenized, it would probably be an asset token. But one question, if you have a token like Uniswap that technically allows you to vote, it resembles a bit the shareholder at the General Assembly. However, the big difference is this is only a technically embedded function. It is not a legal right. There's no right that you're entitled to vote. It's merely a technological function. Now, if staking would be possible and a fee switch would be turned on, then possibly you would also participate in the revenues generated by Uniswap protocol. Then again, the question comes, would that then make it a dividend? And how would the regulator see this? Could a utility token become an asset token? And, well, from an economic perspective, which is relevant to the regulator, there is the possibility that if it's similar, that they treat it in the same way and therefore like an asset token. It's called the principle-based approach of substance over form. But would that then mean that an asset token would necessarily be a security? For that, we have to look at the definition of a security, which is in Article 2, letter B of the Financial Market Infrastructure Act. And you can divide that in 2 parts. You have a formal element, you have a material element, and you need both to have a security. And the formal element requires a wrapping, some sort of security. We have certificated securities, we have uncertificated securities, any form of security. In addition to that, you need standardization and suitability for mass trading. Well, Uni, you can trade it. It's standardized, it's suitable for mass trading, but it lacks one requirement, and that's the material element. There is no right associated with it. And therefore, arguably, we believe that it's not a security. And to conclude, each of our legal assessments rely on a technical assessment that is an up-to-date snapshot of the facts and circumstances of a protocol. And with that, I'd like to give back the word to Wolfgang.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry, there is last part. I'm not done, but you know, that was a very, very nice conclusion indeed. And we now know that we have like a mission. We have to provide a maximally useful technical assessment report to the legal unit so that they can find out if a token is payment, utility, asset, or security. That's my mission, that's my goal. So I'm going to prepare this technical assessment both on the protocol and the token economics. How do I do that? Well, research. How do I do research? I need resources. First thing, find high-quality resources. And for me, high quality means as close as possible to the source. So to the team, to the community. I go look at the website, I go look at the docs, governance forum, Discord, you name it. High-quality resources. You start from there, and you get your research activity. And research has different components. There is what I call general research, means I try to understand as much as I can about the protocol and the token in general. Then I have experience, like practical experience, when you can actually try the product and have a feeling of how it actually works. That helps a lot. It tells you many things. Then there are specific questions. And what do I mean by that? These specific questions are on top of general research. General, you try to understand as much as you can. Specific question, Those are questions that I know by experience that if I provide very clear answers to these questions, then legal is happy. Their job is easier. Not easy, but easier. So let's start with these specific questions. First question that you have to ask yourself, are there any entities in the protocol with special roles? What do I mean by that? The first thing you need to do when you look at the protocol, you are trying to understand the protocol and the game. You need to know the players, like who's involved. What are these different groups? Are they permissioned? Are there specific requirements to enter in these groups? What are their roles? How are they interrelated? This is something that you need to clarify as soon as possible. So in the case of Ethereum, for instance, you need to know about consensus participating full nodes, of course, because it's not a fully open role. There is a rule that you need to deposit 32 Ether in the staking deposit contract, and then you enter this group, and you have this special role of deciding consensus and securing the chain. In the case of Ethereum and other big protocols, it's also important to know about off-protocol roles, like all the players involved in the IV supply chain, entities involved in off-chain governance. This question is where you set the game and the players. Next, another big fundamental question that you need to clarify immediately. Can the protocol be modified? And if yes, how? Because you can do your very nice research of a snapshot of the protocol today, but you also need to know what can possibly change. Like, are smart contracts upgradable? Is there a governance process? Is there an admin key? You need to know these things. And for Ethereum, we have off-chain governance. So this depends on an open research environment and different entities that find agreement off-chain on what are the next upgrades to be included in a hard fork. And then, at the end, it's always up to node operators to adopt the change. Next question, what is the moneyness of the token? Like, does the token have money properties? And you heard what are the properties of money. So unit of account, medium of exchange, store of value. So here I'm trying to see if the token is actually used for payments, not just presented as good for payments. Is it used in on-chain economies, NFT marketplaces, gaming application, or even off-chain economies? And this is for sure the case for Ether. That can also be argued having good store of value properties. Next, is the token required to participate in the protocol? It's an open question. And basically, here you're trying to see if the protocol has some functions and features that you can access only by having the specific token that we're assessing. So staking, governance, and so on. For the case of Ether, we know that Ether is required to access the network resources, paying for gas and blobs and staking. And yeah, it's definitely used for participating in the protocol. Then we are going to look at the supply. You need to know about the token supply. Is it fixed? Can it change? Are there minting mechanisms, burning mechanisms? And most importantly, if yes, why? Like, what's the point of minting or burning? It depends on the protocol you have to see, and you need to know if the supply is net inflationary or deflationary. In the case of Ether, we have issuance to incentivize validators, and burning because you burn a portion of the protocol fees to avoid gas fee manipulations and economic abstraction of Ether. Then, is the token related to incentive mechanisms? Are there economic incentive mechanisms defined by the protocol, and is the token related to it? Like, you need token to access the incentive, or the token itself is the incentive? These kind of questions, and again, always, why? Is it for compensating for work or risk? And yes, this is the case for Ether, as Ether is used in staking, but it's also at risk of slashing if you don't follow the protocol rules. And the final question is, do token holders participate in the success of the project? This means, are there some effects or mechanisms such that if the project becomes more successful, for instance, higher adoption, then the token holders know that they will have additional value, like value accrual to the token, for instance. And if yes, you also want to make very clear if this is true for all passive token holders or if some on-chain action is needed. So in this case, you can see as examples, buyback and burn mechanisms, protocol revenue distributions. These are the things that you need to look at. For Ether, all we can say is that high success means high adoption, high network demand, potentially a net deflationary supply in a stable way, and people might see this as value accrual for the token holders. So to summarize, I create this technical assessment, these reports, protocol and token economics. I send them to the legal unit. We have a legal assessment, and finally, a nice legal classification, payment, asset, utilities, security. This is very nice, but the job is not just done, because these things can change unless you found out the protocol cannot change. So we keep monitoring and scanning the resources to trigger potential reclassification if we see something changed in the token economics or the protocol itself. And with this, that's all I have. I didn't answer what is Ether, but if you want to know more about Ethereum, the protocol, I have a workshop tomorrow morning, and I will be very happy to see you there. That's all. Thank you.
Here we go, back again. Thank you very much, Wolfgang and Jonas from Bitcoin Swiss. Thank you again. But actually, to be fair, I've got to keep you around. Luckily, we have a gap in the schedule briefly, and so this time I'm actually going to allow even 2 questions. Count yourselves lucky. So if anyone has any questions for Johannes and Wolfgang, let's go. What have we got? There we go. Run, 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 run.
Thanks. That was really clear. I think a lot of lawyers like to use jargon, and that wasn't jargon at all. It was really good. On the monetary aspect of the token, is it primarily if the project says, hey, this is money? Because the project can't really control what secondary markets are being created for their token, right? Like maybe Binance listed or somebody creates a pool on Uniswap. So it's some degree like monetary. But on the monetary aspect that you're checking in the classification, is it only if the project says, hey, this is money? No?
You want to take this?
Yeah, I was not sure if that was directed to me or to Wolfgang. Okay, yeah. So if they intend to use it as a money and it's not used for that case, well, then we don't take that into consideration. We look at what from an economic perspective happens. So whether they want to do it or not, it's how it is used in actual terms. Thanks for the question.
Perfect. Any more for any more? Another question? There we go. I love it. This one's quick. It's good.
How you doing? I come from America to Switzerland because of the laws there. I switched and came to MME legal for the last 8 months, and I'm creating an NFT project. Have you seen or felt any ideas of them trying to pull them into some of this? Because right now the AML laws and KYC and everything's starting to creep in, and their new one, I can see the future once I start, they're going to change it, and I just wanted to feel out what you thought about the NFT markets.
It's yours.
Okay, well, my thoughts on NFTs, I don't have too many thoughts, to be honest. The thing is, if they are not...
I want to clear it up. When I say NFTs, these aren't like pictures of monkeys and stuff. It's utilities that give discounts and all these different pieces to this whole entire platform that they're going to see it and go, oh, wait, we didn't think of that yet. That's what I'm just reading through, and I just wanted to see if you looked at. It's a new story. I'll tell you about it, and I'll talk to you about it, but I don't want to waste everyone's time.
Yeah, let's talk sure for sure. But if there is a discount with the token associated or with the product, then it depends on if it's only usable for within the ecosystem or if it's outside also usable. If it's in the ecosystem, I don't see too many problems from the boat here. But we would need to obviously have a closer look on that. Yeah. Sure. Let's talk outside for sure. Thanks.
There we are. Perfect. Thank you again for Wolfgang and Jonas.